Okay, with about 1 minute to start time, I will just go over some basics of the meeting and a summary of the agenda for tonight's meeting. Let me just pull that up. And can everybody see and hear me and see the screen?
Yeah, sure can.
Okay, thank you. So just as a reminder, tonight's meeting is being broadcast live on YouTube. This is a continuation of our Zoom virtual meetings. There's information about how to join our Zoom meetings on our website. You can participate in 3 primary ways: by using the raise hand function, the chat function, or if you're dialing in, you can dial *9. Our moderators will bring you in. The format of the agenda, although it looks like a lot of text when you're just looking at the raw agenda, it's a fairly simple format. The Planning Commission is going to go over their introduction with roll call and minutes. Then we'll move into items that require a public hearing. We have 1 item that requires a public hearing. That was the public hearing was opened on August 26th and adjourned to tonight's meeting. And that is the Clover Communities Senior Housing Project. On the same agenda, we will act on some old business items, including the action on a special land use request and preliminary site plan for the Clover Communities Senior Housing Project. There is a minor change to that project, which the Planning Commission has been made aware of, with the addition of 3 units in that proposed development, and the new agenda and packet reflect that change. There's also an action to discuss the RM district zoning ordinance text amendments, which were discussed midway through the summer and then again on August 12th. So there's a continuation of that discussion. And then finally, a new business item, which is a preliminary site plan for the Ashley Crossroads South, what we call the trailer parking project for their parcel to the south of a building near the southwest corner of Ecorse Road and Haggerty Road. With no further ado, and with that being the summary of the agenda, I will turn this over to our Planning Commission Chair, Carol Thompson, for the meeting to proceed as it normally would, just in a virtual format. Thank you.
Director Powers. I'd like to call to order the Charter Township of Van Buren Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, September 9th, 2020. We'll start with a roll call, please. Ms. Harmon.
Joan Franzoy.
Here.
Jeff Jar.
Here.
Donald Boynton.
Here.
Brian Kelly.
Here.
Medina Atchinson.
Here.
Sherry Budd.
Here.
Joan Franzoy. I'm sorry, Carol Thompson.
I'm also here. Thank you so much. So we definitely have a quorum. Everyone's here. That's great. The first item on tonight's agenda is to approve the agenda that's presented before us. Is there a motion on the agenda?
So moved.
Commissioner Boynton, any
Support.
or changes? I'm sorry, who said support?
Commissioner Jar, support.
Thanks, Commissioner Jar, support. So we have a motion and support to approve the agenda, and it's a roll call vote, please.
Brian Kelly.
Yes.
Medina Atchinson.
Yes.
Sherry Budd.
Yes.
Jeff Jar.
Yes.
Donald Boynton.
Yes.
Joan Franzoy. Carol Thompson.
Thank you, yes. And so the agenda is approved. We'll move right into approval of the minutes from the regular meeting of August 26th of 2020. Is there a motion on the minutes?
So moved.
Commissioner Boynton, support?
Support.
Commissioner Jar, support? Any corrections or changes to the minutes? We'll have a roll call vote for approval, please.
Sherry Budd.
Yes.
Medina Atchinson.
Yes.
Brian Kelly.
Yes.
Donald Boynton.
Yes.
Jeff Jar.
Yes.
Joan Franzoy.
Yes.
Carol Thompson.
Yes. All right. So our minutes are also approved. The first item on tonight's agenda, as Director Powers told us, is a public hearing. This is a continuation from a public hearing that was held and then adjourned at the August 26th, 2020 meeting. The developer is Clover Development. It is a public hearing for proposed senior housing facility. The applicant, Clover Communities of Van Buren LLC, is requesting special land use approval for the construction of a proposed senior housing facility with the agenda says 125 independent senior housing units, and that was how we noticed the public hearing. I understand that they are correcting that tonight and adding a couple, 3 units, I believe. The property is located at 8470 Belleville Road, property ID 83-03699-0002-702. And it is located on the west side of Belleville Road between Tyler Road and Robson Road, and it is zoned C2, Extensive Highway Business. The parcel is plus or minus 17.7 acres in area. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Commissioner Boynton, support.
Support.
Commissioner Atchison, the public hearing is now open. We'll hear any comments from the public and then anything that the Planning Commission wants to say during the public hearing. And then we'll adjourn that public hearing and consider their application for special land use and preliminary site plan approval later on in the meeting. If you'd like to speak to this agenda item, and we'd love to hear comments, and we just ask you to tell us your name and address. And if you would keep your comments specific to the special land use request on Clover Development right now, there'll be a chance to speak on other agenda items later on in the meeting. So I'll ask the moderator, do you have any public comment?
Does not appear like we.
Does not appear that we have any. Anything from the Planning Commission for the public hearing? Nothing. All right. In that case, we can go ahead and have a motion to adjourn this public hearing and to our agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Through the chair, I believe you can close out the public hearing at this point. So that could be a motion to close the hearing unless you wanted to continue at a later meeting, but I think it can be closed at this point.
I'm sorry, did I not say that? Thanks for the clarification. So the motion is to close the public hearing from Commissioner Budd, support from Commissioner Boynton, and we'll have a roll call vote, please.
Jeff Char,
Yes.
Donald Boynton,
Yes.
Brian Kelly,
Yes.
Medina Atchison,
Yes.
Sherry Budd,
Yes.
Joan Franzoy, Carol Thompson.
Yes. All right, then this public hearing is closed and we'll move into old business. First item under old business is the Clover Communities Special Land Use Review. The applicant, still Clover Communities of Van Buren LLC, they are requesting special land use approval for the construction of proposed senior housing facility with 125 independent senior housing units. Property is still at 8470 Belleville Road, same parcel ID number, on the west side of Belleville Road between Tyler and Robson, and it is zoned C2. I believe the applicant is with us this evening and they have a presentation to make before we hear staff reports. Is that Ms. Arnott is here with us?
Yes, I see that Beth Arnett has been brought into the meeting, and I know that she has presentation slides that if we can give her screen sharing rights, which I think as panelists she probably can. Otherwise, I can open up those slides. There we go.
You able to see them?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Please let me know if you cannot hear me clearly. Again, my name is Beth Arnett and I am with Clover Development. I'm here tonight to talk specifically about a special use request as well as a site plan for the proposed use. I think we've gone through who Clover is and what we do. If anyone wants me to refresh any of that, please let me know. I know it's in your slide packets, but in respect of your time, I want to jump right into the special use request. Senior housing is a special land use in the C2 district where we're proposed to be located. The senior housing is an identified need in Van Buren Township. At the time that we approached the township was currently talking about implementing and attracting senior housing within the district as well as within the overall township. So Clover Group develops, builds, and manages long-term senior independent housing for persons 55 and older. We have over 160 developments from Missouri to New York. The location here provides excellent access for an aging in place situation, being near major roads, shopping, and also still having the buffer of the forested area and the serenity of aging within the township and not being overly compacted with development makes this a very attractive location for our development. It's easily accessible from all sides of the township. And then just lastly, we were approved for a variance to allow for garages as accessory structures to exceed the allowable coverage. Senior housing, just to expand, senior housing is a need throughout the state, throughout our geographical region. It's something that allows people to live in their communities, to continue to shop at their grocery stores, visit with their family and friends, as well as knowing the surrounding, moving at an older age is really key to what we seek to provide. This is a very recognizable location for people in the Van Buren, Belleville, and even into Canton and Wayne areas. Here is the site plan that we are proposing. The building is set back over 400 feet from Belleville Road. We have an outlot created for future commercial use. The building itself will have 128 units. It will be 3 stories with 40 garages, 122 surface parking spaces. There will be bicycle parking, as well as sidewalk connections to Belleville Road. The lot itself will remain wooded with the exception of the building pad and the proposed stormwater area. Each unit has a private outdoor living space with a balcony and patio, as well as communal open space in the courtyard where there's barbecue and patio. Often we see gardens created, community gardens, and outdoor recreation, group yoga, opportunities for walking and exercise as well. This is a little hard to see. I did try to blow it up, but this is just the overall site data, the acreage. So with the 128 units that we're providing here, we did scale back the outlot from 1.92 acres to 1.52 acres. We maintained a buildable area, and we did provide a proof of concept plan for commercial use. Our typical unit sizes, we did have several reviews, and we all, both the consultant and ourselves, missed the sizing on the units. So we are in the process of updating the site plan to reflect the minimum unit sizes. We don't have an issue on the 1 bedroom, only with the 2 bedroom units. So we will be increasing those sizes. Overall, that's going to increase the building by about 44 feet. So it doesn't cut into any of these site plan or preservation areas. We'll be able to move 1 or 2 of the corridors and still maintain the the site layout as we have it. So it won't change anything drastically on the site. And we do have over 150 feet available to the west. We do have an oversized pond that we are able to reduce. And we have over 300 feet there to the south. And again, we're set over 400 feet back, or I'm sorry, not over, it's actually 396 feet from Belleville Road. So we could inch up there a tad as well. The accessory structures, just to give you an idea, these are the coverages for garages. The garages are practical and desirable for this location. There will be a total of 40 garages. Each have individual bays. They do have wall separation. So this is not a portico situation or, sorry, just a covered parking. This is an actual garage with a movable door. I want to jump into the B-Rod standards. We have had pretty extensive discussion on this. And with that, we've come to this elevation. So this is the east-west front elevation of the building. So you see here the front and the rear. We are at 52% brick, and we are a little bit under 25% hardy plate or concrete fiber siding. We have added the board and batten vertical elements. The individual balconies protrude from the building, so they do break up the linear frontage of the building. You'll see in a second here, they're shown in white just to bring out, for the purpose of this drawing, where the board and batten will be, but it will be a color match situation where the accent will match the overall color scheme. I would have liked to have provided you a material board tonight, but unfortunately with COVID, our suppliers are having issues with shipping. I do have a 4-foot section of a railing at my house, but I'm not able to get any hardy plank or the cedar board and batten siding right now because supplies are in very short demand. This is the garage elevation. The garages are also 51% brick and the remainder, so 49% hardy plank lap siding. Each unit has its own door as well as a man door in the rear. The elevation scheme that we were told was a natural color palette, so earth tones. The building and facade are a traditional design to resemble a home environment versus an institutional living environment. The predominant building material is brick, but the hardy plank lap siding will add the more home element to it, as well as the stained board and batten. The individual balconies create a depth. You know, they're typically very well decorated and maintained. They also provide that vertical break that's required in the facade. So here's a little bit of a sample, and I'm hoping that you can see this okay. This is color and materials. Now we're not locked into any specific color. We will follow these colors, but I can be flexible with them. This is a red brown brick that will be the base of the building. The top color shown here is heather and would be used for the hardy plank lap siding. Now that actually, the hardy plank is a smooth board, and then the color below the fawn would be the stained color for the board and batten. And then you would have the brown, it would be a muted brown color that we would have. Oops, I'm sorry. For the shutters and the accents. So we use a flat shutter, flat with raised panels, and then that would be provided in brown. I did provide you with just a look at what the balcony, the rails would be. This is a PVC material that's used to provide for sturdy accent on the rails. And this here is our typical signage. It's pretty traditional, low key. The name of the building at this point will be Belleville Garden Senior Apartments. So Pleasant Run is already taken. So this would be Belleville Garden. Just the factual breakdown of the building materials and coverage. Again, we're at 52% brick, 25% cement fiber, 16% wood, and 7% vinyl. The total facade accessory structures, so these are the garages, are 51% brick and 49% cement fiber. And, you know, again, there will be decorative lighting and rails that will create, you know, the separations required in the building. There's windows in each unit. These are, you know, these provide natural light to every unit. The garages, there are not windows in the garages. We do respect that these are private spaces that may or may not be used daily, like a residential garage, and they're not attached to the building. So we don't want to create anything that could be long-term a nuisance. And we also want to respect that privacy issue. Again, we've been in this business for a long time and do have a good handle on what our folks are looking for. And then, just to understand the location of the building. So the building itself is 400 feet west of Belleville Road. The front of the property will have a commercial outlet at some point. The setbacks, just to put in perspective, the Westlake Apartments are set back 165 feet from Belleville Road. Bayloft to the south is about 100 feet. The State Farm building to our north is 80 feet. And then further to the north, the Full House Self-Storage is 200 feet. The Meyer building, not the outlets or gas station, is about 628 feet from the road. So where the garages will be located, I mean, we're talking about 500 feet from Belleville Road. We have no intention to remove any of the forestation there. We have over 150 feet to the west. And again, we have over 100 feet from the garages to the nearest property line on the south. So the garages themselves really will not be visible to anyone who's not on the property. And, you know, just to wrap up, again, we look forward to working with you. And I would like to answer any questions that you have.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Ms. Ernett. I think what we'll do is go to recommendation from McKenna, which would be Vidya Krishnan. And I think Director Powers has some notes for us, and then we'll see what questions and comments there are. But first we'll go to Ms. Krishnan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I start my review, if I could please ask the applicant, Ms. Ernett, for a clarification. You mentioned that we would be adding 44 feet. Did you mean 44 square feet? And is the addition of units and compliance with the square footage increasing the building footprint, or is the footprint going to remain the same?
Yeah, the footprint is going to have to be enlarged a total of 44 linear feet. So we're working with the architect and engineer right now to determine where that footage will be added. In order to meet the required square footage, we are going to have to lengthen the building.
Okay, so that poses a little bit of a challenge, because when a public hearing is advertised, the public hearing specifies the square footage of the building and the number of units. The number of units being increased by 3 is not such a big issue as long as the footprint remains consistent, because that can be classified as change to the building plan to comply. The fact that the actual footprint of the building changes the whole special land use advertising for this. I am sure the engineer will have something to say on that matter also, because when you increase the footprint of the building, you're increasing potential area for runoff. So everything is going to just expand slightly bigger. So under state law, we are required to make sure that the public hearing notice is very, very accurate. At this point of time, the expansion of the footprint actually makes the public hearing notice that the township has published invalid. So I would defer to Director Powers if he would like to offer some insight on what we should do next.
Yes, thank you, Vidya. This is a issue that stems from a detail within our zoning ordinance that is an important detail for establishing minimum living area standards for senior housing within the special land use requirements for senior housing. Typically, this early in a review process, we would not get to the nuts and bolts of specific dimensions on floor plans. But it is important to acknowledge that the minimum floor area for 2-bedroom units in a senior housing project is 850 square feet. I think up until this point, it sounds like there is still some adjustments that are being made, and there was not clarity on the minimum area being met. And with the area of the floor plans changing, there are 2 ways that could be addressed. One is modifications inside the building. Another is if they have to expand the building, then to the principal planner's point, that is a significant change in the site plan that would require some adjustment to the way that the engineering is reviewed and adjustment to the overall layout that we would have to proceed with renoticing and revisiting this at a later date. So the Planning Commission has some options here to advise the applicant to see if there's a solution that will keep this in the same footprint. And if there's not, unfortunately, we would need to push this to a later agenda. I think there is some value in talking about the project at this point regardless, but if there is a change in the building footprint, then it would need to be addressed at a later Planning Commission date before an action on preliminary site plan. And I see the Public Services Director has his hand raised as well.
Madam Chair, through
Director Best.
Ms. Ernott, when you say 44 linear feet, whereabouts are you saying that the change has to be made? Is it the entire structure, the entire is moving 44 feet out each line, or is it just?
You have
You froze.
I think Matt froze.
Matt is frozen, but perhaps
I think I can understand where he's going. It would not be a 44-foot line.
Okay.
We need to find 44 additional feet. So that could be 8 feet to the north and then, 14 feet to the south. So we understand, I mean, this is less than a 5% difference to the overall area of the building. We would be able to move some units internally. We can make smaller. So right now, we do have units that are over 900 square feet, but we do have a good amount of units that are around 795 square feet. So we do need to find the balance. You know, this was brought to our attention on Friday. I do have my architect working full-time on trying to make it fit, but we do need to prepare that we could have an increase in one wall, possibly 20 feet. We would not be adding anything, any substantive change. So the calculations that have been provided do need to be double checked and re-provided. As far as the engineering is concerned, we do have an oversized pond. So from a storm runoff situation, that should not be an issue. We did have that pond sized for a 2-acre outlot with the amount of impervious surface equating to that. So the pond size will not change. Go ahead, Vidya.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Of course.
I understand that, Beth. I'm not saying that the size of the pond or the size of the parcel is inadequate to accommodate the expansion you're proposing or compliance with the ordinance. The challenge at this point is preliminary site plan approval can be granted when the exact size of the building units and everything is nailed down. The step between preliminary and final only includes final engineering and minor details such as changing a light fixture design or something. It cannot involve something as big in scope as maybe extending one wall out 8 feet or another wall out 20 feet, because at this point of time, we don't know. I cannot say for sure if I might not have some other planning comments to make when I see your building is stretching out one way or the other, or the fire department doesn't have any questions about, okay, is the circulation still going to work? It might all work out, but that is something that needs to be final before we can make a recommendation on preliminary site plan approval. So at this point of time, I think, we have our review letters ready, as do the engineers. My recommendation would be to have your architect finalize what the footprint of the building is going to be for compliance, resubmit your plans so that we can review and bring you back before the planning commission. We will have to renotice the public hearing. That would be required under state law. So we are at a situation where we know you can probably work it all out, but the planning commission is not at a position to take action until that is finalized.
Madam Chair, I guess that.
Oh, Matt, we're having.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
You guys hear me at all?
Yeah.
Now we can.
Oh, you would think that, being on the computer all day for school, they would get off it at night, but. Okay.
For kids of yours. There you go.
So, Madam Chair, that's the position that our consultant for McKenna has taken on this. Really, it is the we're citing for you. She's citing for you the rules that we believe that she believes and we believe we have to follow if there's a significant change. But really, that decision is up to the planning commission, whether you want to, we can only make the recommendations. You guys have to make the decision on what you'd like to do. Without seeing.
Did it happen again?
Yes.
Wow. Let's give it a second, Madam Chair.
Of course. I'd like to hear what Director Best has to say, so we'll let him work out his technical difficulties.
Through the chair,
Yes, Director Powers.
I might just interject in a way that I don't think will, hopefully will not muddy the waters, teeing up for Director Best to come back. It is important to make sure that what you're looking at the time of preliminary site plan review is an accurate building size. What the planning commission, what the planning consultant mentioned as being what the planning commission should do is valid in accordance with the zoning ordinance if there is a change to the building footprint. And what you might consider is postponing action to give us a chance to see what this layout looks like, if there does in fact need to be this expansion, or if there's another solution that does not expand the footprint of the building, it may be able to be brought back without re-noticing. I think the change in the building footprint is the key here. It's the thing that kind of anchors all of the other changes. So it may behoove the planning commission to look at it in the lens of, if there's an opportunity for us to look at this with the applicant and see if there's a creative solution that does not change the building footprint, then we can work to get this back on the agenda as soon as we can have an agenda. If there is a change to the building footprint, we would have to renotice. So those may be some options to look at.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can. Director Best.
Calmly as I can without dropping off. So I think it is the board's decision that they have to decide whether or not they want to take the recommendation of the principal planner. There has to be, without really seeing the difference, it's hard to say if it's going to be, depending on what it is, it's going to be really hard for us to say what's a significant change and what's not without seeing the prints. So but Vidya is, Ms. Christian is right. It is under the rules and technical rules that we follow, it is a significant change. So
I'm going to guess that we've lost Director Best.
God.
I'm going to ask,
Madam Chair.
wait, hold on for just a second. Let me get some clarification from Director Powers here.
Okay.
Are we certain that we cannot take action tonight on special land use?
We are certain that if the applicant is indicating they're going to have to make a change to the building size, that it would be inadvisable to take action, because we think they don't think the plan that they're presenting to you is feasible. So I don't think there's a plan that you can validly take action on.
Okay, so what I'm trying to do is separate the two parts of the discussion. So setting that aside for the moment, whether or not we can take action on preliminary approval, site plan approval, is there a benefit to everyone to having a discussion about the preliminary site plan approval? In your opinion, Director?
There are aspects of this, broad aspects of this that you might discuss, but I think just in the interest of time, not knowing exactly what would change if there is a potential expansion of the building footprint, you may be best served to continue to review the materials. I know there's a lot of information there, but maybe not. You might be best served to just postpone discussion and action at this time, okay, including significant deliberation on the project.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That is helpful. Commissioner Boynton, I'm sorry I interrupted you. What were you going to say?
Oh, no. No need to apologize, Madam Chair. What I was going to do was to simply ask if it is good with you to move to do just what Director Power just said, which was to move to take action on postponing any action and discussion on both of the Clover Communities preliminary site plan and special land use review, allowing them to make the adjustments, have a discussion, and come back to us at another time.
And I guess through the
before you,
chair.
oh, I'm sorry, Director Powers, go ahead.
I'm sorry, but just to be clear, you still have the ability to make the decision. It's really the planning commission's decision. You could discuss the project and assume the best that there wouldn't be any significant changes. It is up to you, but I guess if the inclination of the planning commission is that you're cautious about there being potential changes, you'd probably be best served to postpone. So you heard from the planning consultant on what she thinks would be appropriate, and I think you have options to consider, but ultimately the choice is yours.
All right, I'm going to ask other commissioners if you have inclinations or strong feelings about which direction you would prefer to go.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Jar.
I did have some comments concerning the site plan that I did want to bring up. I brought them up with staff. I was planning on bringing them up in the meeting, primarily around sidewalks and phasing for the outlot. When is it going to be broken off? Those sort of questions. But I think that the questions that I've posed to staff could be worked out with the applicant during the time period that they're working on this building size change. Because of that, I'd be in favor of postponing the action on both items pertaining to Clover Communities tonight.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Kelly, how do you feel?
Madam Chair, I'm for following the recommendation of staff and postponing the items until we can assure that everything's in line and ready to go forward.
Sounds good. Commissioner Atchison? Oh, Medina, your sound isn't on.
I'm so sorry. I agree that we should be tabling both these agenda items. I just feel there's a lot of material here, and if we go over it, only for it to possibly change considerably, it would be a waste of time, and we have some other items. So I say that we just table it.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Franzoy?
I agree with the other commissioners that we should table it.
All right, and Treasurer Bud, anything?
I would go along with the recommendation as the rest of the board do.
Okay. In that case, is there a motion?
So moved.
You are just postponing, no specific date or time, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there support?
Support.
I'll take it from Commissioner Atchison. Any discussion on the motion? It's a roll call vote, please.
Joan Franzoy,
Yes.
Jeff Jar,
Yes.
Donald Boynton,
Yes.
Brian Kelly,
Yes.
Medina Atchison,
Yes.
Sherry Budd,
Yes.
Carol Thompson.
Yes. So thank you. We will postpone. I want to thank staff and our planner for your help with the direction. And I also want to thank the applicant. I think they are working extremely hard and trying to make sure that that they get what they need for their clientele and their business, but they also fall within the ordinances that we have. And I think they'll come up with a solution, and I hope that they can do it fairly easily and quickly. And we look forward to seeing you. All right.
The chair, just to be, maybe this is a little overly detail oriented, but there is a special land use request and a preliminary site plan request. So not to take up too much time, but you should probably do a motion to postpone. I believe that motion was for the special land use. You might also consider a motion regarding the preliminary site plan on discussing or postponing that.
We can certainly do it that way.
Madam Chair.
Is there a motion, Commissioner Boynton, on the?
I have a question before I make the motion. I thought if Ms. Harmon can read back the last motion I made, I thought I was covering both the preliminary and the special land use in my motion.
Yes, you moved to postpone any action discussion covering the special land use and preliminary site plan review to allow the applicant to make the adjustments.
Okay. Director Powers, does that cover us with what you're saying?
That, having that read back, yes, you're responding to both requests, and I think the motion can be written accordingly. Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay.
Good. Good questions and good resolution. So now we will move to what is item 3 on our agenda, which is the RM, Multiple Dwelling Residential District Amendments. The proposed amendments that would allow single-family detached dwelling at a density of 6 to 7 units per acre as permitted land use by right in the RM, Multiple Dwelling Residential District. And it would contemplate dimensional requirements for these detached single-family dwellings. The amendments will be to section 3.107B and 3.107E RM, multiple dwelling residential district, permitted uses and dimension regulations. We've had discussions on this item a few times before, and we had sent a staff back to bring us some resolution to some of the questions or gray areas that we had. So we'll start with a presentation from staff first. Is that Director Powers, or are we going to hear from McKenna Associates first?
I think the best way to go about this, and thank you for asking, Chair, we'll have the principal planner go over the kind of line by line main points of the ordinance that was written, and then I can summarize at the end. If there's any broad summarizing statements, I'll provide those at the end. So with no further ado, I will turn this over to Vidya Krishnan.
Great.
Thank you, Director Powers. This item has been before the Planning Commission on several occasions, and we have discussed it in detail, including bringing back information, comparing it to other similar developments. What we have brought before you tonight is the best of all the information that we had previously gathered and presented to you. We have taken information from different ordinances, different codes, and then tailored it to suit what would be appropriate for the township. Based upon the information we brought before you last time, we are proposing to include single-family dwellings as a permitted use in the RM district, subject to 2 classifications. They will be called RM single-family edge dwelling and RM single-family interior dwelling. An edge dwelling would be defined as a single-family dwelling which is located along a property line that abuts a major thoroughfare or another property that is zoned agriculture, R1A, R2A, R1B, or R1, and provided the requirements of the architectural details are met. And an RM single-family interior dwelling lot would be any single-family lot that is located on the inside of the parcel, that is not abutting any other single-family residential district or major thoroughfare, or it can abut a parcel that is zoned RM1 or RM2 based upon our experience of parcels that are located within the township. So before you tonight is the table of permitted uses, section 3.104, and over there we added single-family detached dwelling in the RM district as a permitted use. We went ahead and corrected section 3.107, which is RM multiple family residential district, to define edge and interior lots. Now, when we come to the dimensional standards, we are trying to stay within what the master plan had advocated, 6 to 7 dwelling units per acre. And that translated roughly on a scale, lots anywhere from 6,300 square feet to 7,200 square feet at the lower and at the higher end. So our recommendation was that the minimum lot area for an edge parcel will be 7,200 square feet. So these would be the slightly larger lots. So if these lots are placed next to an existing single family subdivision, or if they happen to be abutting a major road such as Tyler or Morton Taylor, you would have the larger lots over there. And the interior lots that are within the core of the development can be reduced in size to 6,300 square feet. So we would give the developer the whole range between 6 to 7 acres. It literally translates into what the master plan allows. Similarly, the parcels that are located on the edge need to have a minimum lot width of 60 feet. So for all means and purposes, it would look like if it's next to a single family subdivision, the transition won't be abrupt. It's not going to look like tiny, tiny houses right next to each other. The transition will be seamless. If from a street you're looking at it, it will look like a conventional single family subdivision. Once you drive inside it, the homes will be slightly more tightly packed. So there will be a core area surrounded by an edge area. The core area will have the smaller lots with narrower lot width, and the edge areas will have the larger lot sizes with larger lot widths. So the setbacks also correspondingly are, in case of the front yard setbacks will be consistent, similar to all other single family residential districts. It will be 30 feet required for the front. The rear yard setback will vary. The edge district, because the lots are bigger, which means between the width and the depth, there is more room. The rear yard setback will be 35 feet. And for the interior lot, it will be 25 feet. The side yard setbacks minimum for the interior lot will be 5 feet each. Typically, 5 feet is the minimum required for public safety, for fire and safe access between buildings. That will give you a 10-foot space between two dwellings in order to access the area between the houses. When it comes to the edge, that is the larger parcels, your required side yard setback will be 10 feet each. So the separation between dwellings will be 20 feet. So basically, it will look like, visualize a circle which has got center spokes coming out. So the edges are larger pie-shaped lots and the inside gets narrower progressively. So it gives the developer the option of achieving the density that is recommended by the master plan. And at the same time, it doesn't create a development that looks like tightly packed homes together. It provides for a transition within a community itself. The neighborhood will look like a community by itself. We also added it to other single family, we added it to the other tables, schedule of regulations where it's supposed to be. We did add a clarification with 2 new footnotes in the schedule of regulations. It does say that RM single family detached residential structures must be architecturally substantially different from any neighboring structure, based upon the use of substantially different and neighboring structure that is already there in our ordinance, similar to what we apply to all other single family subdivisions and PUDs. This is to ensure that the homes don't have a cookie cutter appearance, and there is significant variation. Even if these homes are located on smaller lots, there'll be enough diversity in the development itself. The next footnote we added was all single family detached residential dwellings on interior lots, which are the 45-foot lots with a lot area of 6,300 square feet. They must provide access to the garage or other vehicular access to an accessory structure through the rear yard or through a common alley access. If you recollect, at the last meeting, we presented to you information from the Cherry Hill Village, which showed that the smaller lots were located in the center and gave a more neighborhood feel because the garages were all placed in the back and all vehicles, trash cans, everything would be in the back of the lot. And what you would see in front is porches, main entrance doors to create a more community feeling. So that is the requirement. When you have smaller lots with narrower lot widths, the requirement is going to be that access has to be from the back. There was a question last time, I believe it was brought up by Commissioner Jar, what about garages for these? In case of these lots, the accessory structures can be attached or they can be detached. Typically in interior lots, the smaller lots, having a garage in the rear yard with access to the alley, detached garage would be preferable so that you do not have long, extensive driveways going there and taking away green space in the rear yard. So the ordinance that is presented, I tried to highlight only the main points so as not to confuse. So the crux of the ordinance is master plan recommends 6 to 7 dwelling units per acre. We are translating it into 2 types of dwelling units: single family edge, single family interior. Edge is the larger lots, 7,200 square feet, 60-foot wide lots. The interior are the smaller 6,300 square feet, 45-foot wide lots. All of them have to still follow the architecturally different and substantially different criteria that's already there in the ordinance. They can have attached or detached garages, but on interior lots, garage access has to be through the rear. We believe this kind of addition will not just help by adding single-family residential uses to the RM district. We are correcting a lot of existing nonconformities within the township. We do have a lot of single-family homes on RM zone parcels. So not only will this ordinance help correct an existing situation of nonconformity, it will also provide a viable option for redevelopment of any other multiple family zoned parcel within the township, because we are not writing the regulations for one specific parcel. We are writing it so that in case such a thing comes up on another RM zone parcel elsewhere in the township, as Director Powers has presented it last time, he showed you all the RM parcels within the township, such regulations would still be perfectly applicable and will result in a good development elsewhere in the township too. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. And I'm sure Director Power also has some insight into it, or if you would like to add something, it would help the Planning Commission better direct their discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Krishnan. That was well done, I think. I like that you highlighted what your changes were. It was easy to follow in reading and then in hearing your report. So Director Powers, you want to give us some guidance before we enter into discussion?
Sure, that was a very thorough and comprehensive overview by Vidya. I would just broadly summarize that after significant discussion, we are maintaining the proposed detached residential RM single-family dwelling units in the RM zoning district based on their density being 6 to 7 units per acre. We have addressed the concept of context appropriateness and what we call in planning edge matching sometimes by having the more dense units on the inside of a project and the less dense units on the outside of a project by defining what we call edge and interior style units. All such units will maintain single-family residential dwelling standards for detached single-family residential dwellings. All units will have architectural variety. There will be rear access for the higher density interior unit types. And so I think those points broadly address all of the concerns that were brought up at the last meeting and at the meeting prior. And just keep in mind that each project will have a detailed site plan review associated with it, where some of the additional details will be fleshed out. So I think there's a nice assembly of materials and ordinance amendments by the principal planner. There's a small cartoon graphic in my memo that sort of encompasses the concept of the change. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask us, but otherwise we open it up to the Planning Commission to discuss ahead of a planned public hearing on September 23rd. So there will be a public hearing on this set of amendments at the next meeting. So between now and then, and even at that meeting, you can deliberate and clarify your proposed revisions and the consensus on any revisions that you might have moving forward. So this is a good opportunity to do that. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. And it's good to know we have a public hearing in front of us. So I'll ask commissioners, comments, questions for staff or the planner. Who wants to go first?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Boynton.
I'll get out of the way with my position. I think also I agree with Director Powers. I think Ms. Krishnan gave an excellent presentation and is very thorough and covers all the bases. That's all I have to say.
Great, thank you. Someone else?
Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I do like the level of detail that is in this presentation. It's nice. It really allays a lot of the fears that I had about how the language would be put into the ordinance clearly. so that we didn't have confusion between the ordinances that cover our standard R1 and R2 districts versus this new offering. I really like the concept of Ms. Christian call it the pie shape, the less dense on the outside and the higher density on the inside. I think that works very well, and I understand the intent, and I like it. I do like it. I like that the edge dwellings are defined in terms of their abutting zoned properties. I like that they're defined regardless of neighboring zoning, whether or not they're against a major thoroughfare. I think having the edge dwellings as the buffer for the higher density middle is wonderful. As a suggestion for the ordinance, I do believe that it is the intent of this to ensure that those edge dwellings go along unzoned properties, specifically our lake district. And I'd like to see that added into the edge dwelling definition, that the edge of the property is a major thoroughfare, the lake district, ag, or the residential zone parcels. I think that would be an excellent change to make to it. I had a question about whether R1C was included. We have an R1C zone, right?
Yes, there is a typo in the definition of single family edge dwelling. The last one is supposed to be R1C. I think the C got left out. Thank you for catching that.
Excellent, great. And I think that's important too. And when I saw that, I wasn't clear if that was left out on purpose because the density of R1C is similar to this edge dwelling density or not. So I think it's important to make sure that the typo is covered for the next yes. review. On the definition of the interior dwelling, do we have an RM1 and RM2 zone?
Mm-hmm.
Do
yes.
we really?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yes.
I wasn't aware of that. I thought we just had RM and then RMH. But I couldn't find the definitions of them. Maybe I'm just reading it wrong. So I'd like to make sure that that's clarified. My concern on the dimensionality, I actually like all of the dimensions that you've proposed, except for the interior setback dimension. The setback of 5 feet on either side, I understand that is the bare minimum allowable for fire safety. I did look in our neighboring townships ordinances, 6 different townships nearby. 5 and 5 would be the smaller than anyone else has. I think the next smallest that a neighboring township offers is 5, and sum of 2 is 15. I could get behind a 5 and 15, sum of 2, 15. A pair of 5s, I think that is really too tight. I do like that the edge zone setbacks are a sum of 2 is 20. I think that makes sense, and I think it would look good, for the edge. It's the interior setback that I'm concerned with, not the lot size. I actually think the interior lot size seems like it is consistent with what other communities are doing for higher density single family housing. So I think we're on the right track there. And then finally, I didn't understand in footnote Z and footnote AA. The footnote Z covers residential interior dwellings and says that we have to have a garage in the back. And then footnote AA says that for interior dwellings, the accessory structures may be attached or detached. Am I?
Yes.
So which one takes precedent, or is the AA one meant for something other than a garage?
The AA is for any accessory structure. It can be a garage or it can be some other accessory structure, and it can be attached on the back of the house so that you can come off the alley, or it can be detached and you can come off the alley. But it must come off the alley. It can be attached or detached. So both of those are covering both the bases. So
is the intent that the alleyway comes out of the lot size, or is that meant to be a right-of-way road? How would the property line work with an alleyway?
An alley would be a private right of way. It will not be taken off from the lot width. It is not going to be part of the lot area itself. It'll be in addition. It'll be a private right of way.
Almost more like a road than a driveway then.
Correct. Typically, alleys in established cities and these narrow places have a width of 16 feet or so. Alleys do not have the same dimensional requirements as a public or a private road, which would be like 27 feet back-to-back curve. It'll be the less required limitations, like in inner city neighborhoods, whatever is required necessary for access and to meet the standards.
Great. My final comment on the document is if there was a way for you to, the next time you submit it, find a way to get rid of those reference source not found.
Yes.
All of the tables, we can't read the comparative numbers in the table because the pages are pulled out and they don't have their references. I'm sure it's difficult to print out the pages separately, but it would make it a lot easier to review.
Absolutely.
I would say, thanks guys. I think you did a really nice job on this. It's very close. That's my comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner Jar. Good thorough research as well as thoughtful comments. It was helpful. Someone else?
I guess through the chair, kind of don't want to take the air out of the room with the planning commissioners, but just if I could say something, Chair Thompson.
Of course, Director Powers.
The Commissioner Jar had a couple of suggestions, good suggestions regarding formatting, and then a couple of suggestions that are substantive potential changes to the text of the ordinance. So you might want to consider if there's a consensus on those changes, whether it's just some deliberation and discussion, just so we have some direction as staff as to whether the planning commission would prefer to see those changes in what we'd consider the final draft of the ordinance, or to proceed as written.
Great. I think that is the point of our discussion tonight, is to make sure that you guys have everything that we want covered and clearly, so that when we go to public hearing, although there can still be changes after public hearing, but what we present to the public is pretty much the direction that we're headed. So let me ask commissioners. I think one of Commissioner Jar's suggestions was, in addition to major thoroughfare and adjacent development parcels, that we add the Lake District, that we consider that is that location would be for edge development, not interior development. Anybody have feelings about that? Commissioner Kelly, I'll pick on you first.
Through the chair, I was on mute. I'm just, maybe Commissioner Kelly is. Can somebody please explain to me what you just said? Can we have an example of what that means in regards to the edge? I understand the proposal of the edge and interior placement of the lots, but what Commissioner Jar was suggesting.
Sure.
Yeah.
Through the chair, would you like me to expound? My concern in the section 2.102 proposed definitions is that the edge dwelling is defined as an RM single family building containing not more than one dwelling unit, designated for residential use of one family only. Here's the important part: located along a property line abutting a major thoroughfare or property zoned ag or standard residential, and provided the requirements of 514 are met. 514 are the building housing differentiation rules. My concern is that if you had a parcel that was abutting the, say, the lake shore, across the lake might be residential districts, R1B housing. But that doesn't necessarily abut the RM parcel in question. The RM parcel abuts the lake. And that is not specifically a property that is zoned ag or residential. It's the lake. We do, since the intent of the definition appears to be that we want to screen the higher density lots inside of the RM parcel, we want to make sure that the lake edge is considered an edge dwelling area, a place where you'd have to build edge dwelling homes, and not the higher density center of the pie against the lake. That's what I was trying to get at. Does that make sense?
It's much clearer.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah.
With that, I just want to make sure that Director Powers and McKenna agree with that, the way Commissioner Jar explained it.
Yes, Commissioner Jar basically is saying that just like larger lots need to be next to established single family residential subdivisions and major streets, you should treat the lake the same way so that you don't have the teeny tiny lots on the lake. The larger of the lots need to be on the lake.
Okay.
Understood.
Through the chair.
Sure, Director Best.
You heard me?
Welcome back.
Awesome. Okay. The only thing that I would add to that, Commissioner Jar, and to Ms. Christian and Ms. Director Power, is that you could just reference, if the idea is to have the edge properties include the lakeshore properties, you could just add anything you could add the zoning district BLB or BLA, which is the shoreline districts. You could just reference those.
That would be what I was trying to suggest, is that we should include major thoroughfare or property zoned, the list that's already in the proposal, or zoned, I don't know if we call it zoned BLB or BLA, or in the BLB or BLA.
Their references BLA or BLB.
Yeah, that, and I would be in favor of that. I think that would be what I would propose there for you.
But that would be how you would do it.
Yeah.
There are sections in the township that are on the water that are not adjacent to BLA or BLB. So that might, this is the best way to describe what you want to do.
And the intent, and I hope the planners understand that the intent is, the edge shielding. We just need to include the lakeshore property. Okay, thank you.
Good. All right, so let me ask it this way. Is there consensus among the commissioners that we would add that to our explanation of the edge part of the development being part of the BLA and the BLB? Does anybody disagree with that or think we're headed in the wrong direction?
No, I think that's a good direction.
Okay, good. Good, then we'll go on to one of the other points that Commissioner Jar brought up, which is the side yard setback. So anybody want to weigh in on 5 feet, needs to be more than 5 feet? Anybody have a preference of the up to 15? So it kind of splits it. Or is there a new magic number? Let's give the staff some direction on that.
I believe Commissioner Jar suggested minimum 5 feet, but combined for both yards should be 15. So it can be either 7.5 feet, 7.5 feet, or it can be 5 feet and 10 feet. That's how ordinances are written. So 5 feet on one side, combined not less than 15. On a smaller lot, that would still allow you for a 30-foot wide dwelling, which is reasonable.
Great, thanks, Ms. Krishnan. All right, so let's take that. Anyone disagree with increasing the side yard setback on the interior lots to an up to 15 feet with a minimum of 5 feet? Anybody?
Don't have a problem with that.
I'm sorry, say it again.
I don't have a problem with that.
Okay. All right, so that gives some direction to staff as they bring back what we'll look at for the public hearing. Take one more chance. Anybody have anything else on these ordinance additions and changes that they want to make sure they weigh in before we get to public hearing? Anybody? Okay, it sounds like you guys have taken our many discussions and boiled them down and come up with excellent direction. And I think creative way to explain it, not only so that we understand it, our residents understand it, but I think this clarification between the edge and the interior will help the developers to picture how they can use the parcels as well. So if there's nothing else on this, we're ready to move to new business. Good. Moving to new business, the item number 1 is Ashley Crossroads South trailer parking / storage. The applicant is Ashley Crossroads Distribution Center South LLC. They propose to construct a trailer parking lot, which is an accessory to an adjacent principal light industrial use, which has frontage on Ecorse Road. The site, parcel number 83041990001002, is within a 4.9 acres located between 41775 and 41873 Ecorse Road. It is zoned M1 light industrial. The site is located along Ecorse Road between Kirkridge Street and Haggerty Road. And we have the applicant with us, and they have a short presentation for us this evening.
Thank you very much, Planning Commission. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. My name is Alan Dresselhaus. I'm with Ashley Capital. We are seeking site plan approval this evening for additional 86 trailer spots at our development at Crossroads South. With our vacancy rate near 0% right now, we're almost 100% occupied. We feel the need for supplying our tenants with some additional trailer staging, which has become abundant that we need to do this. We have seeked all our approvals from the ITC corridor group and have submitted plans for site plan approval. I believe I have my civil engineer on, Joe Webb, as well. So if you have any questions pertaining to what we've presented here, we're here to answer those for you.
Great, thanks, Mr. Dresselhaus. We'll hear the recommendations from Township staff and our planner and engineer, and then we'll see what questions there are. Director Powers?
Thank you, Chair. I will defer to our reviewing staff first. We have the principal planner, we have our township engineer who has been here patiently tonight, and our fire marshal. I think there are minimal, just a few fire comments, but our fire marshal is here as well to speak to this project. So I'll get out of the way and let our review experts state their piece, and then I'll summarize the project at the end. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Ms. Krishnan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you mentioned, the site is part of the larger ITC corridor that runs east-west, and it was recently rezoned from RM to M1 Light Industrial District. The trailer parking is intended to serve the light industrial building currently that has got frontage on Ecorse Road. Building number 3. The zoning ordinance permits the trailer parking as an accessory use, which is incidental to the principal use of the property. All of the items that are required by site plan approval regulations of the zoning ordinance have been met at this time. The parcel has a total area of 4.9 acres. I think there was some concern about the fact that this is owned by ITC. The applicant had previously submitted at the time of rezoning copy of a long-term lease agreement with ITC, allowing them to proceed with use of the parcel for trailer parking. Now, this is a long-term lease of the parcel, and the parcel is really not usable for anything else since it's a utility easement. So it would be our understanding that whenever this lease expires, it's just simply going to be extended and continue that way for use of the industrial building. With regard to dimensional requirements, the setback requirements are applicable to buildings on a site. There are no buildings proposed at this time, and the existing building Road does comply with the setbacks, so that particular concern is not there at this time. There are existing access drives on the east and west side of the site that come off Ecorse Road. The access drives are 32 feet wide each, And the plan proposes new curb cuts on either end of the trailer parking area, which would access the main access drive that is coming down on both sides of the property. Cross access is not applicable to this property. Sidewalks are not being proposed or required because this is an interior parcel between two established industrial parcels. The applicant has submitted a truck circulation diagram which shows that the turn radii being provided is adequate for trailers to move in and out of the site. All of the trailer parking spaces are 11 feet wide by 50 feet long. Now, the zoning ordinance requires double striping for parking spaces for vehicles. It is not specifying it as required for truck trailers, and we find the single striping for trailer parking acceptable. The area will be fully paved with concrete, as shown by the applicant, with reinforced concrete and vehicular parking required as part of this proposal, nor is any barrier-free parking required. Those requirements are applicable only to the building that already exists along Eco's Road. There are no additional docks being created as part of this proposal. With regard to landscaping, the site is located in the M1 district, and landscaping is applicable to this parcel also. It is not adjacent to any right-of-way, therefore no right-of-way landscaping is required. With regard to interior landscaping, the amount of landscaping that is being proposed by the applicant with the trees being planted does meet the ordinance requirement. The one challenge on this parcel is it abuts RM district to the west. This parcel was also RM, it was rezoned to M1. So when it abuts the RM to the west, a 60-foot wide buffer with a staggered double row of evergreen trees is required. And on the east side, it abuts C1 zoning, which requires a 20-foot wide buffer with one tree for every 20 linear feet. Now, the existing greenbelt on the west side is 48.4 feet, and on the east side is 17.3 feet. These are existing dimensions, and they cannot really be altered because these are the main circulation drives that provide access to the Ashley Capital South buildings that have already been approved. Our standards for greenbelt width and landscaping came after the original access drive widths were approved. So this is an existing non-conforming situation that is partially created because the parcel was also rezoned to an intense industrial district. There is no possible development that can take place to the west of it because it's still part of the ITC corridor. And to the east is a commercial parcel, which will have its own greenbelt. The ordinance does allow the Planning Commission the discretion to modify the width of the greenbelt requirements. At this time, we believe the existing greenbelt widths are adequate to meet the intent of the ordinance. The applicant is proposing several plantings on the east and west side greenbelts in addition to whatever existing trees there are to provide increased screening. No trees are being removed as part of the proposal. With regard to stormwater detention, I will defer to the township engineer to cover that item. With regard to lighting, the plan proposes 10 light poles and there is a manufacturer's cut sheet included. Now, the intensity of illumination shown on the applicant's photometric plan far exceeds what is allowed by the ordinance. In fact, it's not dropping down to zero at the east and west property lines. Even if there is nothing next to you at this time, the intensity of illumination on the site must comply with the ordinance requirements. So a revised photometric plan needs to be provided. For the applicant's letter, the light poles are going to be 35 feet tall. Typical allowed height is 25 feet, but the Planning Commission has the discretion to allow the poles to go to a maximum height of 35 feet. We have no issues with raising the light pole height. However, the intensity of the bulbs that are installed in them needs to be turned down in order to comply with the ordinance. The applicant should also be aware that the light pole height from grade, including the base concrete, the pole until the top of the fixture, all of it has to be 35 feet. Sometimes the base, applicants tend to measure the base separately in addition. All of it has to be within the 35 feet. No dumpster is being proposed. There is no architecture to be reviewed at this time, and no new signage is being proposed. The applicant has been working with us. This project has been a long time coming. So at this time, we recommend the Planning Commission approve the preliminary site plan for Ashley Crossroads South trailer parking, subject to two conditions. Approval of the stormwater detention calculation by the Township Engineer and Wayne County, and revisions to the photometric plan to comply with illumination levels and inclusion of the light pole height detail. I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great, thank you, Ms. Krishnan. We'll see what questions and comments we have after the rest of our review. We'll go now to Fishbeck, Mr. Kamer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As Ms. Krishnan had said, this project entails the removal of existing cross road parking and the inclusion of a consisting of 86 trailer parking spots. There is modifications to the existing storm drain system, parking lot lighting, as was mentioned, and other site plan improvements that go along with the parking lot. Just want to mention, as always, at this level of review, we are looking at engineering feasibility and not doing a full engineering review at this time during preliminary site plan review. Currently, on site, there is water and sanitary sewer that runs along the west drive. The applicant is not tapping into or modifying the existing systems at all, outside of some structure adjustments for the sanitary sewer that is near one of the driveways, but that's just a cover adjustment, and no other modifications will be made to the township infrastructure for water or sanitary sewer. As Ms. Krishnan mentioned, the big question mark that we brought up in our letter, as you will see, is really with the stormwater management of the site. The current layout for stormwater is being modified and being reused as part of the new proposed stormwater collection system. And as part of the previous southern parking lot adjustments that Ashley Capital did, this was 2 years ago, Wayne County made them go back through and resize and redesign the existing detention ponds on site. The applicant, as part of their submittal, referenced this redesign, and the big question mark that we had, and we will work with the engineer, was we want to see on their plans the inclusion of the new parking area and that the system has capacity for the new parking lot, as well as everything that was designed as part of that previous redesign. We believe that the capacity of the pond should be well enough to fit within the parameters of what they previously redesigned with Wayne County, and we don't see an issue with it. We would just like to see this put on the plans so that in the future, when the township goes back to look at the plans, they know exactly what was included in these pond calculations. With that, if stormwater calculations for the parking lot have changed from the previously approved Wayne County set, then the applicant will have to resubmit for stormwater approval through Wayne County, which again, I don't think will happen, but we'd like to at least tell them that that is a possibility. With that, all other engineering aspects in terms of curb runoff, stormwater, pavement size, all of that will be looked into in detail during the engineering submittal. And at this time, we don't have any issues with recommending to the Planning Commission that they grant preliminary site plan approval for engineering feasibility, and as long in accordance with the comments that we made in our letter.
Great, thanks, Mr. Kamer. It was nice to hear from you. You sat through a long discussion until we could get to you. And I appreciate you reminding us about the redesign that happened a couple of years ago. So we also have Fire Marshal McAnally with us, and any comments, recommendations from the fire department, please.
The only comment is that I can get in and I can get out with my trucks, so I'm completely happy with all of this. Thank you.
Well, that we want you to be happy, that's for sure. Great, that's great. All right, so to the commission, questions or comments for our principal planner, for engineer, fire marshal or staff or the applicant?
Through the chair.
Sure, Commissioner Bud.
And I have talked to Dan and previously about this, is the fact that we are letting them build a piece of a parking lot with landscape design and everything on property they do not own. I know that that they do have an agreement with the owner to be able to do these kinds of things, but I guess I would be concerned about what the long range product would be if they were to move or to sell, because they couldn't sell that piece of property with their property. I just want to make sure that we're going to be safe on that account. I'm sure it isn't going to happen anytime in the near future, but I'm just concerned about us letting somebody else do something on land they don't own. That's that much.
Understood. Do we have an idea of what happens if something changes drastically, Director Powers, and the property is sold?
Well, there's a way to look at that. That's a valid question. The one way to look at this is that this is certainly not what we would refer to as a temporary land use. It's a lease agreement with an uncertain end date. And so for all intents and purposes, it's a permanent accessory use to the principal distribution and warehousing uses adjacent. The lease agreement that was provided with the rezoning that the Planning Commission and Board looked at in 2019 clarifies what the applicant is allowed to do here. And there's a letter with ITC, the owner of the property, that came in at that time. We can certainly have the applicant come back with their final site plan approval with sort of a vetting of that lease agreement and make sure there are no inconsistencies. But by and large, that lease agreement covers what they are proposing to do here for the long term. So I don't see that being an issue. In my past experience, what a utility or service corridor is looking for is that you're not building structures over their property. That's the key, is that you're not encumbering access to their lines. And in this case, this is flat work and some landscaping. I do not see this being an issue, but it's worth having the applicant verify that upon their final site plan review and approval.
It sounds like a good direction. Great, thank you. Other questions or comments, planning commissioners? Anyone? Do we have anyone in the audience that has comments or questions?
Nope.
Okay, no one in the audience, nothing else from the commission. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I'm feeling very chatty tonight.
We like that. We like that.
Unless Commissioner Kelly was ready to jump in. I didn't mean to step on you, sir.
No, go right ahead.
Madam Chair, in the under new business item 1, case 20-006, Ashley Crossroad South Trailer Parking Storage. I move that we grant preliminary site plan approval for the Ashley Crossroads Distribution Center South, located between 41775 and 41873 Ecorse Road, which is zoned M1 light industrial, subject to the conditions and recommendations of the McKenna letter dated 25 August 2020 and the Fishbeck letter dated 28 August 2020, and the recommendations of Fire Marshal McInally.
Great. Is there support?
Support.
Commissioner Kelly, support. Any discussion on the motion? We'll have a roll call vote, please.
Joan Franzoy,
Yes.
Jeff Jar,
Yes.
Donald Boynton,
Yes.
Brian Kelly,
Yes.
Medina Atkinson,
Yes.
Sherry Budd,
Yes.
Carol Thompson.
Yes. All right, so we're approved on preliminary. We look forward to seeing Ashley Crossroads South back when they have final. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We are to general discussion in tonight's agenda. I'll ask Director Powers, anything for general discussion?
Just that there will be a meeting on September 23rd.
Okay. Planning
We do
Commissioners, anything for general discussion?
Director Best briefings in.
Madam Chair,
Yeah, Director Best.
I just wanted to inform everyone that that the Huron River Drive Bridge over the Huron River will be closed starting Monday, September 14th by Wayne County. If I cut out, just tell me.
Okay. Keep talking.
Supposedly there will be traffic allowed one way at each time, but I have not verified that with the county yet. They have this project is supposed to take anywhere from 4 months to almost into the summer of 2021. The detours are through the city of Belleville down Belleville Road to get to the south part of the township, or you can take the Huron Metro Parks down to Bemis there, the Bemis entrance, but that will require a pass for the Metro Parks. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there under the
All right, we lost you.
Say something now. Say something now, Matt.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Now, okay.
Where did I leave off?
You left off
You
at,
wanted to let us and everyone listening know that that's what was happening.
Yes, so
Okay.
it will start on Monday, so if you're on the south end of the township, be prepared.
Great, thanks. It's good to have advance notice on that. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Anyone in the audience? General discussion items from residents, citizens? Anyone?
Nope.
Nothing
None at
named?
this time.
Okay, great, thank you. If there's nothing else, then is there a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Commissioner Boynton, support?
Support.
Commissioner Kelly, this can be all in favor, say aye.
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 And thank you all. Good discussions, good presentations, and we are adjourned.
Thanks,
Good night.
everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Have a great night, everyone. Bye.
Good night.
Yeah, everyone.